Have you ever wondered why the Bible, a sacred text, is filled with stories of heroes and villains? This question has intrigued scholars, theologians, and everyday readers for centuries. The Bible is not just a book of rules or historical facts, but a collection of stories brimming with complex characters, dramatic narratives, and profound moral lessons. These characters, heroes and villains alike, serve as mirrors reflecting our own virtues and vices, our triumphs and failures. They teach us about morality, the nature of good and evil, and the consequences of our actions. From the righteous dedication of Noah to the treacherous betrayal by Judas, these stories are not merely tales from a bygone era, but timeless lessons about the human condition. These heroes and villains, in all their flawed glory and tragic downfall, make the Bible a riveting read. They make us question, reflect, and ultimately learn. So, join us as we delve into the fascinating world of biblical heroes and villains. When we speak of heroes in the Bible, who comes to mind? Let's delve into the rich tapestry of biblical narratives and meet some of the most notable heroes. Their stories inspire, their deeds are awe-inspiring, and the lessons they teach are timeless. First, we encounter Moses, a man of humble beginnings who rose to lead his people out of bondage. Born into slavery, Moses defied the power of Pharaoh, the ruler of the most powerful empire of the era. With faith as his guide, he led the Israelites through the Red Sea, a feat that stands as a symbol of divine intervention and liberation. Then we have David, the shepherd boy turned king. David's story is one of courage and faith. Armed with a simple sling, he defeated Goliath, the giant warrior. His victory reminds us that with faith, even the smallest among us can conquer giants. As king, David's rule was marked by wisdom and justice, making him one of the most revered figures in biblical history. And how can we forget Esther, the queen who risked her life to save her people? Esther's bravery is unparalleled. Despite being a queen, she was still a Jew in a foreign land. When her people were threatened, she used her position to plead with the king, putting her own life in danger. Esther's story teaches us that true heroism involves risking oneself for the greater good. Let's also remember lesser-known heroes like Rahab the prostitute, who hid Israelite spies and was instrumental in the fall of Jericho. Or Ruth, the Moabite widow who stayed with her mother-in-law Naomi and later became an ancestor of King David. These heroes, while they may have been flawed, demonstrated faith and courage in the face of adversity. Their stories continue to inspire us, reminding us that heroism is not about perfection, but about the courage to act in the face of trials and tribulations, guided by faith and love for others. Just as there are heroes in the Bible, there are also villains. Diving into the pages of the Bible, we encounter a cast of characters that are as complex as they are compelling. Among these are the villains, figures who embody wickedness, and who play a crucial role in the narrative. Let's begin with Pharaoh, the ruler of Egypt, who held the Israelites in bondage. His heart hardened, he refused to let God's people go, even after witnessing 10 devastating plagues. His stubbornness led to his downfall when his army drowned in the Red Sea, a stark reminder of the consequences of resisting God's will. Next we have the towering figure of Goliath. A Philistine giant, Goliath taunted the armies of Israel, challenging them to single combat. His arrogance and pride were his undoing when a young shepherd boy named David, armed with only a sling and a stone, defeated him. Goliath's defeat underscores the biblical truth that physical might and arrogance are no match for faith and trust in God. And then there's Jezebel, the queen who led Israel into idolatry. She orchestrated the murder of Naboth to seize his vineyard, displaying a chilling disregard for justice and righteousness. Her wicked deeds did not go unpunished. Jezebel met a gruesome end, thrown out of a window and devoured by dogs, a vivid illustration of the price of unrepentant sin. These villains, though they were powerful in their own right, serve as cautionary figures. They remind us of the perils of hard-heartedness, arrogance, and unrighteousness. Their stories, while difficult, are essential in understanding the full scope of the biblical narrative. The Bible doesn't shy away from presenting these villains in all their complexity. It shows us their power, their wicked deeds, but also their downfall. Their stories serve as a stark reminder of the destructive consequences of wickedness and the ultimate triumph of good over evil. These villains, while they may have been powerful, ultimately faced downfall because of their wickedness. But what happens when the line between hero and villain becomes blurred? Let's delve into the complex and intriguing lives of two such characters in the Bible, King Saul and Samson. King Saul, the first king of Israel, is an intriguing figure who straddles the line between hero and villain. Initially, he was a humble and reluctant leader, chosen by God to guide his people. Saul's early reign was marked by victories and wise decisions. However, as time passed, Saul's obedience to God wavered, and his decisions became more self-centered, leading to his downfall. He turned from a hero to a tragic figure driven by jealousy and fear. Yet, even in his darkest moments, Saul had flickers of humanity, showing us that even those who stray from the path have the potential for redemption. Now let's turn our attention to Samson, a man of immense strength and a judge of Israel. Samson's life was a roller coaster of heroic feats and personal failures. His strength was unmatched and he used it to fight against the Philistines. However, his weakness for women, particularly Delilah, led him to break his Nazirite vow. He became a prisoner, blinded and humiliated. But in his final act, Samson redeemed himself, using his restored strength to bring down the Philistine temple, sacrificing his life for his people. The stories of King Saul and Samson are not just tales of heroes and villains. They're stories of redemption and grace, of people who had both light and darkness within them. These characters remind us that human nature is complex, and each one of us has the potential to be a hero or a villain. They teach us that it's not our failures that define us but how we rise after falling. These characters remind us that nobody is entirely good or entirely evil, but we all have the potential for both. What can we learn from these heroes and villains of the Bible? As we delve into the lives of these fascinating characters, we uncover lessons that are as relevant today as they were thousands of years ago. They teach us about the power of faith, the destructive nature of wickedness, and the transformative power of redemption. Take for instance the story of David. Here we see a shepherd boy who through unwavering faith became a king. His battle with Goliath demonstrates that faith can give us the courage to face any obstacle, no matter how insurmountable it may seem. But David was not without fault. His affair with Bathsheba and the subsequent plot to kill her husband shows us the slippery slope of sin. However, David's story does not end in despair. His heartfelt repentance and God's forgiveness remind us of the beautiful possibility of redemption. On the flip side, we have villains like Pharaoh, whose hard heart led to his downfall. His stubborn refusal to let the Israelites go, despite witnessing God's power through the 10 plagues, teaches us the dire consequences of pride and disobedience. It's a stark reminder that wickedness, no matter how powerful it may seem, is ultimately self-defeating. Then there's Judas Iscariot, the disciple who betrayed Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. His story is a chilling reminder of the destructive power of greed. But even in this dark tale there is a glimmer of hope. It's found in Peter, another disciple who like Judas also denied Jesus. However, Peter chose the path of repentance and was restored, demonstrating that no one is beyond the reach of God's grace. So, what's the takeaway from these stories? They teach us that faith can move mountains, wickedness leads to destruction, and redemption is always possible. They remind us that we are not defined by our past mistakes but by our willingness to learn, grow, and make better choices. These stories, though ancient, hold timeless truths that are still relevant today. In our journey through the pages of the Bible, we've encountered fascinating heroes and villains. We've seen the courage of heroes like Moses, who led his people to freedom, and the wisdom of Solomon, who ruled his kingdom with justice. We've also witnessed the cunning of villains like Jezebel, who misled her husband, and the betrayal of Judas, who sold out his friend for 30 pieces of silver. We've explored the thin line between hero and villain, understanding that even the most righteous individuals can falter, and the most wicked can find redemption. We've learned that these characters are not merely black and white, but rather a complex array of grays, each with their unique strengths and flaws. We've also drawn lessons from their stories, lessons about faith, perseverance, and the importance of moral integrity. Remember, in every story and every character, there is a lesson to be learned. Thank you for joining us on this fascinating journey through the heroes and villains of the Bible.